and welcome. This is Preeti. I am so glad you're joining me today, and I'm using this stem set called Christmas Miracle from Crafty Meraki, and I'm taking this white cardstock which is cut at 5 by 7, and I'm using this Tupperware lid here to create a large circle. Because I didn't have a circle die that was as big as that, and I wanted this to be a really large wreath on this card. And then I'm taking the Hollyberry stamp from that Christmas Miracle stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that along the circle, and you can see there's a little curve on this stamp set, a branch curve that goes into the leaf. And I'm going to use this ink on 3 ink, which is quite light. It's a fade out ink, which is a good ink to use, especially if you want to do the no line coloring technique. Anyway, so I'm going to keep stamping this and covering up this entire circle that I created using the Tupperware lid. And you can see it's very hard to see that color on the white cardstock. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this Hollyberry and the other stamp that I'm going to use for this card onto another white cardstock using black ink. That way you can see how I color this image. Now I'm not going to use this black line line stamp on my card. Actually, this is just to show how the coloring would look, because I'm thinking with that light fade out ink it would be very hard to see what I'm doing, but I will show you how the coloring would look on a fade out ink as well. So here I'm using an Altenew alcohol marker ink, and you'll see that I'm mixing up my markers, the Altenew as well as my Copic, and it's absolutely fine. They both work and blend beautifully because they both have very similar components, which is the alcohol element in it. Anyway, so I'm taking this dark color here, which is G40, I think it's G40, let me see, it's G416, sorry, G446 from Altenew, and I'm just adding it into the deepest area, that is the center area of this Hollyberry leaf, which is a dark green. And then I'm going to blend that using YG17 and blend that using YG23 and then YG21. When we were living in New York a few years, about 3 years ago, I used to have a Hollyberry plant in the backyard, and the leaf had this really deep green in the center, and as it went out to the outy edge of the leaf, it would almost like a very dull yellow color. And I wanted to replicate that same Hollyberry leaf on this card as well, and that's the reason why I chose that light YG21. You could also use, if you're using Copic, you could also use Y11, and that would look beautiful too, to add that two-tone effect. It's not really a two-tone, it's still in the same families of the yellows and greens, but that little light edge looks beautiful. And here you can see I'm going to do the same thing again onto my fade out ink, and what I'm doing is I'm adding the YG not YG, Y446 from Altenew in the center, and then I'm blending that with YG17 and that with YG25 and YG21. Now when you add YG21, keep in mind, because YG21 has a lot more alcohol in it, it does sometimes fade out the other colors. What it does, it kind of dulls it down. And the easier fix for that is just go over it once more. Like here you can see it just ate away my YG23. So all I did is I just went back with my YG23 and then went over it again with YG21, and that should take care of that. And then once I'm done with that, all I'm doing is I'm going back with the darkest green, and I'm just adding the vein line once more in the center of the leaf, and that just brings that leaf back. Because of that no line coloring, you don't get to see the vein line in the center, so just adding it back with your darkest green will bring life back to your leaf. What I was doing here earlier was I was just erasing all those pencil marks. You don't want to color over your pencil marks, because then you won't be able to erase it. The colors trap your pencil marks, and then it will be seen through when you're coloring. So make sure you are erasing all the pencil marks before you color it, and that's true to any kind of coloring, even if you're using watercolors or you're using any markers, that's going to happen if you don't erase it. So I'm going to do that repeated again and again for all the hollyberry leaves. And I'm also going to show you how I colored these berries. And for the berries, I started off with R27. And then here I'm just taking E47 and just adding it to the center of the berries, just drawing in a curved line in the center of the berries to show the top part of the berries. And then I'm just going to blend R35, and I'm just going to take that R35 all around the berry. Again, when you're doing it on a no line, that black line will disappear, so it'll look beautiful. And then I'm going to blend that with R22, making sure to leave a tiny bit of white. Now, if you for some reason went ahead and colored it, here I'm just taking the dark R89 and just adding it to the deepest shadow. Not a whole lot, just a little. Let's say you colored it over with R22 all over without leaving the white line. Add a white gel pen to it, like a small dot, and you'll be good to go. So not to worry about leaving that tiny bit of white. Now we're moving on to the stem, and the stem here I'm just adding some E27 in certain areas, the dark areas where I think, and then I'm going to add E25 and then E23 to blend the whole thing out. And then I'm going to color all my hollyberries on that previous cardstock similarly. And now also I want to show you this poinsettia, which I have stamped in black again, but in my actual card it's not in black. I've stamped it on ink on 3 ink, the fade out ink, and I'm going to color exactly what I'm showing you. Again, the reason I'm doing it on black is so that you can see where the lines are and how the shading is. So I'm again taking my darkest color here is R89, and I'm just going to add to the center of the poinsettia leaf, and I'm going to extend that R89 I'm going to blend that with R37 and then blend R37 with I think this was R35, and then R35 with R22. So the darkest one, make sure you're adding it to the center line and also to the lines that are drawn on the poinsettia, like veins, extra veins on the sides. You know what I'm saying, right? And then I'm going to just paint color it yellow in the center, and that doesn't matter because we're going to add some gemstones and it won't be visible. So here you can see I've completed coloring the entire panel of those hollyberries using my COPICS the way I showed you earlier. And then I've also colored this poinsettia, and I have fussy cut it using my scissors. And I want to add a little bit more detail to the center. So this time you can see to the center, I did not go back with that R89, the darkest color, because I want to go over the darkest color with my gold pen. Now the pen that I'm using here is the POSCA gold paint pen. And you have to shake it really well for the paint to really mix well and start working. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in those vein lines. I've slowed down the video here a whole lot, and the reason for that is I wanted to share a bit about something that happened yesterday. So our son, who is the youngest in our house, has some learning disabilities. He also has severe anxiety issues, and he's in the borderline ADHD. And sometimes his mechanism to cope up with his anxiety, or even sometimes when he's happy, is to rock. And yesterday on the bus, he was rocking because he was just calming himself down after a long day. And then there was another child who was apparently recording him on his video, on his phone, which Joshua did see, and Joshua requested not to do that because Joshua felt like he was invading his privacy. But he did tell the boy not to do it, but the boy continued doing it, and then Joshua pleaded not to post it anywhere. And the little boy did go ahead and post it onto his social media. And I'm not saying anything about that child either. What I'm trying to say here is, as parents, we live in a world where there are so many different people. There are so many differences. Each one of us is so unique and different. And I pray and I hope that as parents, we teach our children that those differences make each one of us unique and special, and it is because of the differences that the world is such an interesting place. If we didn't have those differences, whether it be in our color, our culture, the way we talk, the way we eat, or even our disabilities or abilities, no matter what, it is those differences in us that makes each one of us special and the world a beautiful place. I would dread to live in a world where everybody looks the same. I don't want to live in a world of minions. I want to live in a world of people with emotions, with love and care. And I also believe that no child is born inherently mean or wicked or wants to bully. No, that's not true either. It is sometimes ignorance, it's sometimes not being taught, not being made aware. So I really hope and pray as parents we teach our children more and more about being acceptable of those differences and embracing those differences, because that's what makes everything so special and beautiful. And I also really pray and hope that every parent who has a child or doesn't have a child, and you know someone else's child as and someone that you have accepted as your child, whether you're a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a niece, or whatever you are, make sure you hold your child and tell them that they are special, whether they have abilities or disabilities or no matter what. Every child is unique and special, and they need to be held and told how much you love them and how much it means. And I believe, truly believe in my heart, when we teach our children to love, they will spread that love. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it just happened when I was making this card, recording this card, and Joshua came home and he was very flustered and he was very sad. And this happened, and I just thought I just would like to share it on the video too, that I really pray that no child goes through anything like that in their life. And it's hard to think about it, but it happens. Anyway, as I was blathering around, thank you for listening. I actually went ahead and stamped the sentiment merry and bright using VersaFine and then embossed it with gold. And the sentiment is from an Altenew stamp set. I will have the name for the stamp set in the description box below. And then I'm just going to splatter some gold watercolor ink, like a metallic ink, just around the edges where the holly berries are, trying to avoid the center portion of the where the stamp is. And then I'm just going to take this poinsettias that we created, and I'm just going to add that in those gaps in between each stem. While I was talking, I also wanted to mention that I did add some yellow gemstones in the center of those flowers. And then I'm taking this additional sentiment from another stamp set from Crafty, and I'm going to add that right under merry and bright. And I want to make sure that I am adding adhesives in the right place. So I'm just going over it to see where I want to add the foam adhesive and where I want to add the liquid adhesive. So I'm just going to add foam adhesive to the two sides of this black strip. And then I'm also going to add a little bit more foam adhesive right underneath that leaf, because I felt like it needed some support when I add this sentiment over it. And in the center area, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add some liquid adhesive. So you can see, because the flower underneath has the foam on it, so it'll stay flush when I just add liquid in the center. And there you can see I've added that. And now I'm just taking a side folding note card, which is also cut at 5x7. All that is left to do is adhere that panel onto this note card using my foam adhesive. And I'm just going to add the adhesive directly to my cardstock, and then I'm going to add my my card right over that. I'm just going to add some liquid adhesive so that I can move the panel easily so that I don't get it crooked or something like that. And that pretty much finished this card, and here's the look of it, and here is the look of the finished card. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope a very happy holiday to each one of you, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.